Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. I've always been on a quest for discovering the quality of life, what is freedom, and dissected it down to four components: time, financial, location, and health freedom. And so once I figured out the secret code, I went on a mission to interview those people that were embodying those traits, all of them. And so today I'm happy to welcome Sejal Lakhani. She's the CEO of TechWerxe and CloudWerxe, talking all about cybersecurity. I'm always been fascinated with tech. So she's going to talk to us about entrepreneurship, women empowerment, and cybersecurity. So with that, we'll welcome Sejal to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know we had connected through Podmatch, which is like the Airbnb for podcast guests and hosts.
Yeah.
And so tell us more about, your journey, how you got started, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Again, thank you so much for having me. So my journey actually starts completely different, as probably most people's, but I started out in the financial industry. Prior to that, I was in the entertainment industry. So I worked for companies like USA Cable, BMG. Then all of a sudden one day I landed at a bank, didn't know anything about banking. And my manager at the time, my boss, was this amazing kick-ass woman who was a year younger than me, who was just a rock star. And through her, I ended up on the trading floor and then throughout multiple multinational banks, living all over the world. I've lived in London, Hong Kong, Singapore, really Tokyo, just amazing places, amazing experiences. And I was climbing that corporate ladder. And I worked at Merrill Lynch, then Deutsche Bank, then Morgan Stanley. When I got to Morgan Stanley, I'm still, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be MD and I'm going to do this. And all these things that you think about, right? When you're working, how you have to just climb. And by that time I was married. Got married in 2005, had my first child in 2008, and I had a second boy in 2011. So I've got two kids and I'm traveling 1 week a month to London and to all these places. And I'm like, what am I doing? We just built this beautiful new house and I left. I quit one day. Didn't tell my husband. We just moved into our house in September. It was November. And we had two boys under the age of 3. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be home and do yoga and play tennis and eat at Nordstrom's every afternoon and just kind of, be that person. And I got on the train to come home and I called my husband. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm on my way home. And he's like, oh, everything okay? I'm like, well, I just quit. He's like, quit what? I'm like, my job. What job? You might get back there. And that's really where my journey kind of restarted. It was my reset button. I ended up being home for about 3 months. My husband had started a company in 2008 in the heart of the recession. My husband thought it was great to leave his job and start a company. And so he started a company in 2008, an IT company. And, I was home for about 3 months and he goes, listen, you're driving the kids crazy. You're driving me crazy. I was driving everything. I was driving myself crazy. And he's like, why don't you just kind of do a little work with me? Do a little project management work. And that started in about 2013. 2 years later, I took over as CEO of TechWerxe and started managing operations, sales, and marketing. And, started there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because, what a fascinating, it reminds me of my own journey. After I think it was a couple of days after Lehman, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stand seeing like CEOs just rob the general public, and so I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. So I turned in my keys and I I did what you did. But it's looking back, those were the days. But
it's liberating though. All of a sudden I'm sitting there going, now what? Now what do I do? I've got to have some purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And I always wanted on my epigraph, quit his lucrative, high-paying. I always wanted that.
I love it. It. Although my husband, I got to tell you, we just bought our dream home. We built our dream home, and he's like, that wasn't part of the plan. I go, but I have a new plan. I don't know what to tell you. That was
Oh,
really good. Yeah. So
yeah, I
that's
love
where my
that.
IT journey began. I've never done IT before. So I sort of ran the company and he ran everything finance and technical. And we grew the company to be one of the top, 100 companies in the nation.
Yeah, and it's interesting because cybersecurity now all of warfare has moved online. It's like, it's
Yes.
hacking, it's like identity
Yeah.
theft, people trying to get into your iPhone now. It's like, so what are some of the big concerns facing business today from a cybersecurity standpoint?
Yeah. The concerns, a lot of people say, well, are the concerns different by vertical? Like, does healthcare have something specific? Does manufacturing have something specific? And I'll tell you what it really is. Our biggest concern is our people. Our people are not trained. We do not spend enough money training our employees and keeping our data safe. And we do that. And now understand that I come from a small and medium business aspect. My clientele is all small and medium businesses. So I'm not really looking at the Fortune 100, the Fortune 500. I'm looking at these little companies that are like, it's not going to happen to me. The problem is it is happening to you. You just don't know it. Our biggest concerns are keeping the data safe. Right now, when we think about hacking, we think about like this nerdy school kid in their mother's basement, smelling, that's like typing away on these big computers, trying to like break into the world. And it's not like that. That's not what hacking is anymore. Hacking is these smart, brilliant people all over the world dropping little droplets and waiting for you to just pick up that crumb and create the hacking yourself. They're not breaking in. We're giving them the key. We're opening the door. We're telling them to come in. We're showing them where everything is and then say, have a great day on your way out. And that's what people aren't understanding. I think people are really having a hard time sort of getting to that, oh, shoot, we're responsible for this, We're not doing enough to keep our data safe, our people safe.
Yeah, it's always that, now there's backdoor channels. So now if hackers can't get through you, they'll get through other doors. Like they can
vendor, they'll go through something else. I mean, GPT chat is starting up now. And as amazing as it is, it's open source. Anybody can do anything. There's a lot of, and hybrid working did not help the situation. If you thought about it before, you were all in an office in a fort. Nothing could get in. We just had to lock that fort and make it secure. Now you got people all over the world working from all over the place, working from their homes. Their kids are grabbing their computers. They're like, kids are watching a movie. Their spouses are watching something. Their friends are coming in. They've got people in and out on their Wi-Fi. It's just a whole different world. And we've got to be very conscious about how do we keep that safe? What do we need to do?
Yeah. What are some of the most important cybersecurity changes companies need to be aware of today? What actions do they need to take? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question. And unfortunately, whenever I answer this question, everyone's like, oh, every time she says something, it makes it harder on us. One of the biggest things is we need more controls in place. So there are things like zero threat security, right? 0-day security. So if your accountant is the only person that really needs QuickBooks, right? They're the only person that needs the accounting system. Joe Schmo over in operations doesn't ever need it. We right now don't lock things down. We need more controls in place where if you try to access something that you don't normally access, you shouldn't be able to get in. But on the flip side of that, that means that your IT person needs to be constantly vigilant and say, Chris just tried to access that. First of all, because so-and-so said I needed it. I just need it for the day. Chris, no problem. We got it verified. Boom, we'll give you access, right? We're in a time where everything is instant for us. We need everything right now, right here at our fingertips. And when we do that, and we do that, by the way, multitasking. So when we're doing that and we're multitasking, we're causing concerns because we don't have everything locked down. So 0-day threats is one of them. Another thing is making sure you're never logging into a public Wi-Fi. There should be no reason to do that. You should not be going to Starbucks, logging into their Wi-Fi and working, right? Anyone can get into that. And they're not as secure as they need it. Your home should have multiple Wi-Fi channels. So in my own home, my kids have a totally different Wi-Fi. Help has a totally different Wi-Fi. My guests have a totally different Wi-Fi. So no one's logging into a Wi-Fi where my system could be attacked. You should have segregated Wi-Fis. Another good one, VPN. You should never be logging in directly to work unless you have a system like mine. I have a enterprise grade network at home because of, the fact that we run a cybersecurity company. you should always be VPNing. Then you don't have to worry about what's on your local computer and somebody getting a hold of something. Those are just a couple.
Yeah. What about segregated laptops and desktops for specific functions, not commingling, one is like your data, another is like your apps, another is like, your banking.
I think that's really hard to do in this diamond age because let's all be honest, most of us use a phone. We're doing everything off the phone, unless you're carrying 5 phones with you. But the way to get around that, the way to do that correctly is, like I said, the Wi-Fi and making sure even through your phone, if you're going into a work environment, you have mobile device management on your phones. You're not doing anything from a general capacity. You're not sharing passwords. But if you start having segregated devices for everything, I definitely think that most people are just not going to do it. We have to be realistic. We also live in a world where everything does need to get done very quickly.
Yeah. It's interesting because and I have a lot of colleagues in blockchain, and they do everything because those are really prone to hack. So they do everything with that just on one thing, and they do what you did, like segregated Wi-Fi, never they VPN everything. Everything's passcode. It's like dual passcodes, multi-factor authentication. There should not be a single soul that doesn't have multi-factor authentication. There should be zero reason. Yeah, you need that, and now people can hijack your iPhone through the SIM card, and it's really sophisticated what people are doing to get in.
Here's the deal, right? We don't look at it this way, but we were actually just named the #1 cybersecurity company in New Jersey, and we went through and we explained to people why we're so good at what we do, because we're constantly learning and evolving, right? But here's the problem: the bad actors, this is a job for them, and they will make more money than all of us combined ever. Okay, and this is a job. They're constantly learning. They're constantly in the forefront. We're always playing catch up. I mean, this is a true, absolute enterprise that they are running here, and it's very well run.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, so we'll transition because, cybersecurity, that's really big. And it's something companies need to be aware of, and talk about, for example, going, onto the entrepreneur route, succeeding as a female in a male dominated industry, advice for young entrepreneurs. Give us your take.
Wow. That's a lot of stuff. So I've always been in male-dominated industries. When I was on the trading floor, when I was in the entertainment industry, it's nothing new for me. I think the biggest thing, if we're going to go that route first, is for women to understand. The more we point out how it is a male-dominated industry, the more people realize how it's male-dominated, right? When you walk into a first-grade classroom and you go to the girls, oh my God, girls, it's so good that you're playing with science and math. They didn't realize it was different. They shouldn't have been playing with science and math, right? So it's pointing that stuff out that I think is causing some of the slowness for that. Here's what I have to say. In any of the male-dominated industry stuff, as a woman, there are definitely behaviors that women have that if men had them, they would be labeled differently. So you have one of two options. You can either change your behavior, or you can say, whatever, I don't care what you have to say, I'm going to go about my way, which is what I did. There are people that are always going to be on your side, and there are people that are going to be against you. And by the way, everybody has this. Every person in this world has people on their side and people against them. So you just have to kind of decide what route you want to take. In terms of entrepreneur, so my husband passed away in 2019 unexpected. And one of the best things I think I'd ever done was join the company, because had I not, I would not have been able to run the company the way I did. I fully took over. My husband was the IT genius behind the company, and I just sort of managed the company. And what I would say to entrepreneurs is this: you got to take risks, number one, because if you're not going to take a risk, it's going to be almost impossible to go forward. If you're staying still, that means you're moving backwards. If you're not doing something every single day to move yourself forward, you're 1000% moving backwards, because there is no still, because everybody else is moving up. And don't wait for things to be perfect, right? I mean, we all have this need for perfection constantly, where we're sitting there saying, well, I can't release this, or I can't do this until it's 100% perfect. It is not going to be 100% perfect, but do the best you can, get it out there, look at where you land, and then take the next step. Look at where you land and determine the next step. And if we don't do it that way, you'll never do anything. You'll never actually make an impact, Everybody talks about passion and purpose. For me, the biggest thing is gratitude. And so do I love what I'm doing? Absolutely. I do love what I'm doing, but more so than loving what I'm doing, I love the people that I'm with and the people I do it with. I love the relationships, the network I've created for myself. I have an incredible circle of friends and network. And I think gratitude for that is what helps me be better in everything else that I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Really. Those are, that's timeless. It's similar to, marginalized communities, on the underdog. Talk about, shattering the glass ceiling for yourself, for women, for underrepresented minorities. Tell us how to shatter that glass ceiling.
If there was a formula to that, I think people could be charging a lot of money. I think it's different for every person. I've always, I just got back from Africa. Yes, I'm part of an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. We're the largest entrepreneurial organization in the world. So there are 18,000 of us globally. And I'm sitting in the lounge yesterday at some airport. It was a really long flight, 18 hours or something. And I remember I was drinking a cold coffee or something. And one of the guys goes to me, goes, "Where'd you get that? How'd you get that?" I'm like, "I asked for it." "Oh, solid strategy," is what he said. Ask for it. Ask questions. When I worked in the banking industry, I was on this panel, and it was a panel for Lean In. And there were all these women that had come into me and they'd said, I'm on the trading floor. I'm in the banking industry. And these guys go out all the time and they don't invite us and they don't do these things. And there was a woman that was on the panel with me. She was in HR and she goes, "Be yourself. Just don't do it. Try something else." And I go, "Well, that's not how you're going to make it." I go, "Let me ask you a question." I go, "Did you ask them? Did you say, 'Hey, Chris, last night I heard you guys went out and you had an amazing time. Next time you go out, let me know. I'm in," right? Ask the question. Ask whatever it is. If we don't ask, you're not going to get it. And so if you want to break the glass ceiling, ask. Ask how to get ahead. Ask how you can do better. Ask what makes you worse. Ask how you can improve. Ask for the negatives. Ask for the positives. Keep asking until you figure out what you need to do to shatter that ceiling.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a wonderful way to end the conversation. Really just, the one thing I love about being an outsider is you just start your own and just don't play by their rules. You create your own rules and just create your own success. So then there is no glass ceiling, right? So
exactly. I agree.
It's how can people contact you, follow you on social media, reach out to you, check out your company website, etc.?
Sure. So my company website is techwerxe.com, techwerxe.com. And I'm Sejal Lakhani, but I also have a website, sejallakhani.com. Please reach out. You can find me on social media, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. I'm pretty much everywhere. If you hit up my website, sejallakhani.com, you'll find all my information.
Yeah. And for all the listeners out there, let's thank Sejal for coming onto the show. Really fantastic conversation about cybersecurity and just talking about just making it as an entrepreneur, all of Sejal's resources will be in the links in show notes, all her social media handles. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Chris, thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely my pleasure.